the first 120 days in office, we will hold a national economic dialogue to draw up a 4-year fiscal consolidation plan. We would rationalize taxes, abolishing, among others, the obnoxious e-levy.
I have the singular honor as the returning officer of the 2024 presidential election to declare His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as the winner of the 2024 presidential election and the President-elect of the Republic of Ghana.
My brothers and sisters, it is with tremendous humility that I accept this clear mandate that you, the good people of Ghana, have given me to lead this great nation as your next president.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Asamparabo, 24-hour economy.
Yeah, 1 month of our president, President John Mahama's in office. Oh, it's very good. It's very good. It's good that we have a change, and the whole Ghana is becoming green. We got the country now for the 8 good years past. We are in a cage, like how the food Ghanaians in cage. As if I could, like our former MP, Kennedy Ajapon said it, Ghanaians in a cage. So we are in a cage true. So that very day, the Ghana become green.
Me who say, young papa no, or your jiphobia or soup on a nipa home, or during nipa home. Essence so be or during nipa home, or no so ya dear, on tia nipa fa who this so. Dear how no mauka, you are who dear how, now say abuau. Only a found abandoned the Otana found this because
His Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama, signed a social contract with the good people of Ghana to reset the damaged economy with an all-hands-on-deck approach, improving governance, restoring public trust in institutions, and improving people's living conditions are huge tasks for any government.
Jam is the hope we need. He's the hope.
His 120-day social contract encompasses 26 key initiatives. These include economic reforms, governance standards, prudent expenditure, justice and compensation, policy reviews including education, and the fight against corruption.
As for recovering any loot, it must be on top of the agenda of any government because corruption bites so hard. This work that I do, the fact that people amass so much wealth and deprive others, that is why we get the kinds of vulnerabilities we see. The link is so direct that if you don't deal with looted items, corruption, you are going nowhere. So we agree with Oral. The Attorney General's Department has specific instruction. I expect the Attorney General to make sure Oral keeps within its legal mandate. Okay, I disagree with people who say it's not constitutional. I disagree. I think that even here, people can come here and report that crimes have happened to them in their homes. Then we take it up and then we let it go to the police. So I don't see why a committee cannot do that kind of thing. We won't do what the police does, but we receive the information. Okay, so the most important thing is that Oral does not overstep its bounds. That will open it up to challenges. And you know the way the Ghanaian courts can be very active when it comes to these things because they will apply the law, okay? So just don't overstep your bounds. Do what is necessary, give it to the institutions and let them work. And I believe that with somebody like Dominic Ayene, whom many of us know, we expect him to do a good job.
President Mahama admits there is no breathing space. A day after his inauguration, he held a crucial meeting with the African Development Bank.
Significant players in the global economy, key development partners. As we speak, we are under an IMF program, so it is not possible to take over power and seek to do a few things regarding the economy and not engage these important stakeholders. So those meetings were intended to place the president's cards on the table, to indicate to them clearly what the direction would be, and have dialogue as to how the current IMF program can be tailored to meet the exigencies of the time and what accommodations can be made to ensure that the economy is brought back on track, because currently the economy is in pretty bad shape and very soon the figures will become apparent to all.
That same week also saw an order to the IGP to investigate election killings, termination of the appointments of all metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives, MMDCEs, and prompt actions that averted doomsor.
Through determined efforts, I can report that we have now averted the looming threat of power outages. And began delivering fuel to the thermal plants in the east in advance of the shutdown of the West African gas pipeline. And Honorable Jinapo, I want to congratulate you for working very hard.
We were basically sitting on a time bomb. The previous government had refused, or if you like, failed, to meet important obligations regarding the purchase of fuel to fire thermal plants because of the imminent shutdown of the West African gas pipeline for routine maintenance. As far back as October, that maintenance ought to have been carried out. The government itself pleaded for time, a 4 months deferment to enable it to put its house in order and purchase for. Yet they were unable to do so. And because of that, it had led to some crisis. On the very first day that we took office, it became clear that we needed $200 million to be able to ensure that if the pipeline was shut down for 2 months consecutively, we will not sleep in darkness. So the president had to convene that meeting under the chairmanship of the chief of staff. And within a matter of hours, the outcome of the meeting produced results. As I speak to you, significant parcels of fuel have been brought in to fire thermal plants. And so we have averted what would have been a debilitating energy crisis. And unless there's any major catastrophe, we should be able to weather the storm as far as that goes.
National security and safety are key on President Mahama's agenda. This pledge is tied to the implementation of the 24-hour economy policy, and he has the full support of the heads of security agencies who pledged full allegiance before his visit to Boku and Nalerigu on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, exactly a week after his inauguration.
Mr. President, I want to assure you that we are going to continue with even greater zeal to ensure that we maintain the security and stability of this country. I want to assure you of our unflinching support and dedication, as I said, to duty, and make sure that we help you to achieve or realize your objective of resetting Ghana. Mr. President, once again, thank you very much for receiving us this morning. We are grateful, and we wish you the best. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
From the recent appointments that have emanated from the President's office, you can see clearly that even if there is an article of Parliament establishing a Ministry of National Security, this President, and he's going back to the original conceptualization of national security by having a coordinator and a few staff around him to, coordinate the functions of that office.
More women have found themselves in President Mahama's new government, which will operate with fewer ministries, a slash from 30 to 23.
He's pushing very, very hard to meet the commitments on gender involvement in his government. At the presidency, there are 48% women working here. Out of 27 people, 13 are women, which is unprecedented. It's quite high. At some point, by the end of the first 2 weeks of his government, there were 27% women representation in his government. That is a significant step forward, and he's pushing hard to meet the 30% quota, he has indicated that the remaining appointments will reflect that particular desire because he values the contribution of women. If you go to the vice president's office, it is 60-40 in favor of women. There are 6 women as against 4 men. That is 60%. I don't think it has ever happened in our history. Indeed, the biggest testimony of all is the vice president herself, who represents Ghanaian women in extraordinary ways because it is the first time that a Ghanaian woman has ascended to that height in governance in our country. And it is a significant moment in our history that we should acknowledge.
Right from choosing Professor Nana Jane as his running mate, and Nana is quality, we know. I mean, there's no perfect human being, but she's quality. Because of my interest in women's empowerment, I am very happy to see that he's really working hard to include women in his appointments. You know, the initial ones came and it was good, 28%. Then there was a whole list that had just one woman. It sort of dampened our spirit a bit. But then we saw that a number of CEOs were being appointed as women, his presidential staffers, the vice president's appointments, you know, of her staffers and so on. And it's quite impressive. Okay, but we don't want it to remain just about appointments, though there are many more to go, we know that. We also want it to be about working on issues that enhance equality between women and men, actually the de facto and de jure.
42 ministers, including regional ministers, have so far been nominated.
As the ministers are approved by Parliament and as they are sworn in, I'll proceed to name deputy ministers for some of the ministries, which will bring the total ministers to 60, as I promised the people of Ghana.
I think the first month of Mahama's appointment, I can see his consistency of what he says from campaign till now. That what he's going, the number of ministers he's going to have and maintain, and then how he's going to run the country. You can see the setup that is on course.
I believe his appointment is one way to show that he's really serious about the country, because I believe he's giving the youth a chance. Because when you watch the appointment, you can realize, oh, okay, the names, the age range is futuristic. So I believe it's positive.
So far, in terms of their age, perfect. The only thing that I hope that the age will go with competence. You see, it is not always the case that the mere fact that the person is young will be able to perform. We have very young ones who don't know their left from right, just like adults or elderly people who do not know their left from right. So being young is one thing, and being or having the ability to perform is another thing. It's a good thing. Elsewhere, young ones are made to learn at tender age from people who are occupying positions. It does not seem to be the case here. We need to learn, and I believe that those that have been given the opportunity must take a cue to encourage future appointors.
I mean, the appointees are also quite young, which is a good thing, but they're not really young and not informed, because most of them are persons who had worked in the previous administration, and so they have some knowledge that they bring to the table or to their positions. To the extent that they are mostly young, it's also very revealing. I mean, you look at the Asante Regional Minister, he has 34 years. The guy has used a lot of wisdom and he speaks well. I think people like that, if they are practical enough, just as they are knowledgeable, will go far.
President Mahama was fully aware of the task ahead. You could see, of course, that having taken power, you see more than you could see when you were in opposition. But he's been very, very clear that you don't need a legion of ministers to get the job done. And when he inaugurated the third batch of ministers, he made it clear that there's no correlation between a large government and delivery, because we saw it in the previous administration. At some point, we had 125 ministers, and yet that was a period where some of the biggest problems this country has ever faced in all sectors occurred.
The agenda to reset Ghana is on course. Committees in charge of reviewing the constitution, education, assessing the state of the economy, investigating election-related killings, and the implementation of other flagship programs have begun work.
For me, I think the consultative approach is very important. You need to engage, you need to listen, and then try and go through the information, try to process the information you receive, and then consult your internal management and see how you further engage. So for me, it's a positive step. I remember the case of Senchi, for instance. I was in the helm of Senchi with Dr. Joabe and all the key people, the governors of the central bank, Ministry of Finance, Honorable Tepe, and the vice president of what he championed, may his soul rest in peace. So I think this is, for me, a step in the right direction.
I think it's very smart, okay? A ruler, a governor who is consultative is likely to pick off the best heads. So I really like the consultative approach that he's bringing to governance, issues around the economy, education, the Constitutional Review Committee, and so on and so forth. And so that approach to me is a very good one. The only thing you need to make sure is that these committees do not turn into conumtees.
This government will not tolerate arrogance or disrespect for the people who elected us into office.
The 120-day social contract remains a huge task. President Mahama needs the buy-in of Ghanaians. That will depend on the guarantees from his actions.
There is the hope